Have you ever felt that as a Muslim woman, there are not enough Islamic programs out there dedicated to just you? Have you ever had questions run through your mind about your role as a Muslim woman, your rights and responsibilities, or just general matters? Just Us Women is a program dedicated to you, the Muslim woman. Islam Life Radio has tailored Just Us Women to meet the needs of our Muslim sisters in order for them to gain authentic knowledge. Our host and teacher for this program, Ummu Maahir Ismaa'eel, will deliver and expand your minds on various topics related to women's fiqh, motivational talks, and how to be among the best women to earn Allah Azza wa Jal's pleasure in this life and the next, insha'Allah. So be sure to join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Just Us Women, brought to you by IslamLifeRadio.com.
Have you ever thought about what it takes to know the ledge? People say, know the ledge. What does that exactly mean? Well, let me see if I can sum it up for you in a short poem. Now is the time to show greatness and uplift. With knowledge and wisdom, we share the ultimate gift. We recognize our Creator who provides and sustains us, who gives our life balance and constantly maintains us. Our broadcast to the people is molded by truth. For the men and the women, and especially the youth, we reach out to those from all walks of life, no matter where you come from and no matter the type. Our goal is quite simple, and that's education and unity. With a smile and the salams, we embrace our community. There is no secret to success, just a desire to learn, because the blessings of Allah is what we seek to earn. So lend us an ear and bring an open mind, and be cautious, not careless, and be aware of the times. All it takes is one slip if you're living on life's edge, and unfortunately some fall because they don't know the ledge.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Are you experiencing a difficult situation? Going through stress, anxiety, confusion, or even depression? Perhaps something's troubling you and you don't know who to ask and where. Maybe you've done a sin and you don't know how to deal with it to make everything better and redeem yourself. You might even be wanting to consider marriage and have someone in mind, but don't know how to take the matter forward in a halal way. Are you looking for advice and guidance, which is also Islamically sound and authentic? If so, then your prayers have been answered. Islam Life Radio is now offering a free, confidential, anonymous, impartial, and non-judgmental counseling service based on the Quran and authentic Sunnah. Email us now at counseling@islamliferadio.com.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. Welcome back, sisters, to our third segment of the Fatawaa al-Mar'a, Islamic fatwa regarding women. And again, this is a compilation of rulings as they apply to women that have been presented by Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Jabreen, and the Lejna. So now the first two questions in today's segment actually will be the last two in this section on Aqidah. And so we begin. The question was posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. In fact, the last two questions in the section are for Sheikh Uthaymeen. And it was asked, the ruling concerning celebrating Mother's Day. So the Sheikh was asked, every year we have a holiday on a particular day, and it is called Mother's Day. It occurs on March 21st. All the people gather and celebrate that day. Is this permissible or forbidden? So Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah replied by saying, every holiday or celebration that differs from the Sharia celebrations is a newly invented innovation. Again, every holiday or celebration that differs from the Sharia celebrations is a newly invented innovation that was not known during the time of the pious predecessors. And this is the Salaf as-Salih. Furthermore, he said, it may have begun as an imitation of the non-Muslims, and therefore And therefore, in addition to it being an innovation, it may also be an act of resembling the enemies of Allah. The Sheikh went on to explain the Sharia holidays are well known among the Muslims. These are the Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and the weekly Eid, which is Friday or Jum'ah. There is no holiday or festival in Islam other than those three. Every holiday that is invented besides them is to be rejected as an innovation and falsehood in the Sharia. This is because the Prophet ﷺ said, every deed introduced into our affair that does not belong to it is rejected. And also that it is rejected from that person and it will not be accepted by Allah. Another wording of the hadith states, whoever does a deed that is not what our affair is upon will have it rejected. The Sheikh went on to say, since that is clear, the holiday that is mentioned by the questioner known as Mother's Day is not allowed. It is not allowed to have during such a day any kind of public display and celebration, happiness, giving of presents, and so forth. It is obligatory upon a Muslim to have pride and honor in his or her deen. He or she should also limit themselves to what Allah and His Messenger have restricted this upright deen to. And this is the deen that Allah is pleased to have His servants follow. There can be no addition or subtraction from this deen. He said, furthermore, a Muslim should not be a kind of weak person that follows every na'iq. Kullu na'iq, he said, which translates into everybody and his brother, or Tom, Dick, and Harry. Instead, his personality, he said, should be that defined by the law of Allah, and such that he is followed and not a follower, such that he becomes an example and not a disciple. And this should be the case because the law of Allah, praise be to Allah, is complete and perfect in all aspects. As Allah has stated in the Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayah 3, as it is interpreted into English, this day I have perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your deen. The Shaykh concluded by saying, furthermore, the mother has more right than to have just one day in the year as a celebration for her. In fact, the woman has a right upon her children that they will care for her, look after her, obey her, and anything which is not sinful during all times and at all places. So this was answered by again by Sheikh Uthaymeen. And just to comment quickly that we right now are as we are presenting this program this evening, this is Christmas Eve. I call Shirkmas Eve around the world, and so this ruling is very timely, that he said any celebration, every holiday or celebration that differs from the Sharia celebration is a newly invented innovation that was not known during the time of the pious predecessors. So be it Mother's Day, be it the Mawlid, because it's also timely right now that people are celebrating the Mawlid, which is the so-called Prophet's birthday. So we have Muslims around the world celebrate involved in that, and then we have weak Muslims in the West, and even in the Muslim countries that don't see it's harmless to celebrate Christmas or Shirkmas as it should be known, since it is a festival or a mass, Christmas Christ Mass. Well, it really should be known as a Shirkmas, because of it is based upon all kinds of shirk and disobedience to Allah. So Muslims should really steer clear of these matters. And as he said, that we should be strong, and that we shouldn't be following every na'iq, everybody and their brother, but we should be strong in our own deen and have pride in our own deen. And sisters, this is even more important right now in the times that we are living in, because we are being pressured to cower by haters and bigots and what they call Islamophobia and all the stuff that's being presented in the media. But it boils down to that we're being pressured to give up our deen or to hide our deen, and to be afraid to express our deen and to show our deen, and to especially us females, us Muslim women, because we're on the front line. We are who they see before you see anybody else. You know, many times the husband doesn't even wear an Islamic attire, but we women, we're wearing our hijab. And so this is a time when it's no time for us to be weak, honestly speaking. It is a time for us to be strong in our belief in Allah and our faith, and to continue to present Islam and with the most dignity, the most pride, and the most trust in Allah Ta'ala, because we now give, and as we show the rest of the world that this deen is not something you forsake because of a few bigots. This deen is too precious to forsake. This deen is too precious to forsake because of a few bigots out here in the world. We're being tested. So in this time in particular, sisters, give up the desire to follow those people who are weaker than you. Believe me, they are weaker than you. I come from a non-Muslim background. I was raised as a non-Muslim. I came into Islam because I wanted to get away from that lifestyle. That lifestyle offered me nothing of substance. This deen gave me everything. So this is a time when we are to be proud and to stand firm upon our deen and to wear our hijab proudly. And I ask Allah to protect all of the believing women wherever they may be, and to guide our weaker sisters to be stronger in their faith. For surely Allah loves the strong believer. Surely Allah loves the strong believer. And that is not strong in being able to lift weights, but that is strong in that we stand firm upon our belief system. This is our aqidah, and this is what we're discussing in this part of the book. The last question in the section on aqidah is the wisdom behind creating recording angels. So the question was posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. Allah has created for us noble recording angels that record everything we say and hear. What is the wisdom behind this creation? While Allah has full knowledge, and nothing that we hide or reveal is hidden from Him. So the Shaykh rahimahullah responded by saying, first, when it comes to matters of this nature, we may discover the wisdom behind it, or we may not. There are many things concerning which we do not know their wisdom. As Allah has stated in Surah Al-Isra, verse 85, and they ask, as is interpreted, and they ask you about the ruh, or the spirit, say, as for the ruh, its knowledge is with my Rabb, my Lord, and of knowledge you, mankind, have been given only a little. And you have been given only a little knowledge. So the Shaykh went on to say, as for that creation, it is as if the person would have asked me, why did Allah create the camel in the form that it is in, or the horse, or the donkey, or human being, and questions such as that. Or if he would have asked me, why Allah has made the Dhuhr prayer 4 raka'at, Asr 4, and Isha 4. And as for questions of that matter, we cannot know their wisdom. As otherwise, one might ask, why did Allah not make it 8 or 6 raka'at? Therefore, we know that with respect to this creation, and with respect to many aspects of the Sharia, the wisdom behind them is simply hidden from us. However, he said, if we do know some of the wisdom behind some of Allah's creation or parts of the Sharia, it is because Allah has given that to us, and that is simply a greater excellence, knowledge, and goodness. However, if we do not have that knowledge, we are not losing anything. So the Shaykh concluded by saying, now let me return to the question. What is the wisdom behind creating honorable recording angels that know everything we do? The wisdom behind that is that it demonstrates that Allah has ordered all things and has laid everything down in perfection, to the extent that He has put above the actions of mankind noble recorders who are responsible for recording everything they do, even though Allah is knowledgeable of everything they do before they even do it. All of this is part of Allah's complete looking after of humans and His complete wisdom in this creation. And the Sheikh concluded by saying, and Allah knows best. So now, sisters, we move into the section regarding knowledge. So the next several questions will be in this section, questions related to knowledge. So we open up with women and seeking knowledge. The Sheikh was asked, and this was posed to Sheikh bin Baz, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to set a special day for teaching the matters of the religion to the women. He also used to permit them to be behind the men in the masjid in order to seek knowledge. Why do the scholars not allow the example of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It is not, although they do fulfill some of those needs, it is not sufficient, and we need more. So again, the question was, why do the scholars not follow the example of the messenger? Although they do fulfill some of those needs, it is not sufficient and we need more. May Allah reward you. So Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah answered, there is no doubt that such was the practice of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as the scholars. Indeed, I myself have done that here on a number of occasions, as well as in Mecca, Ta'if, and Jeddah. I have no problem with setting apart a specific time for women in any locale if they want that from me. That is also the position of my scholar colleagues. Furthermore, he said, by the radio program Nur ala ad-Dar, Allah has opened the way to much good. A woman can send her question to the program, and during the program it will be answered. This program is aired 2 nights a week on the stations Nida al-Islam and Quran al-Kareem. Similarly, women may write to Dora al-Iftah. In this case, a committee of scholars may respond to their questions. It has been designed for that purpose. In any case, knowledge is equally obligatory for both men and women. There is nothing to prevent a woman from attending lectures, with the condition that she is properly dressed and is not exposing any of her beauty. So again, this was answered by Sheikh bin Baz. So what is established here is that the seeking of knowledge is incumbent upon both men and women, and we realize this. And there is no harm for women attending classes. And there are a number of classes I know in my area where women can seek knowledge. In Philadelphia, you have various masajid that have classes set up for women. Here in Wilmington, Delaware, I teach class every Sunday at 4:30 to 7 o'clock, free of charge. Women are allowed to come here at 1524 West 4th Street and learn the Deen of Islam, learn recitation of the Quran, tafsir, tajweed, Quranic Arabic. These subjects are being offered free of charge for women in this area. And also these classes that have been set up by Islam Life Radio for women to take part, listen to on a weekly basis, just as women. Mashallah, tabarakallah, I'm just so grateful to be a part of this effort where women have the opportunity to listen to these recordings on an ongoing basis, even on the radio station itself, or to go to the YouTube station and listen to all of the various topics that have been covered. Also, you have the opportunity to send in your questions. If something hasn't been answered, we want you to send your questions in so that we can address them. So please do that as well. Now we move on to the ruling concerning students standing for their teacher. So the question was posed to Sheikh bin Baz, what is the ruling concerning female students, meaning in a girls' school, standing for their female teacher as a sign of respect for her? Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah responded by saying, the standing of the female students for the female teachers or the male students for the male teachers is an act that should not be done. At the very least, it is strongly disliked. This is based on Anas' statement, radiallahu anhu, when he said, no one was more beloved to them, meaning the companions, than the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam, and they would not stand for him when he came to them, as they knew that he disliked such an act. The Prophet alayhi salam also stated, whoever loves to have men stand for him shall take his abode in the fire. And on this matter, the Sheikh said, the ruling concerning men is the same as that concerning women. And may Allah guide us all to what is pleasing to Him and keep us from everything that angers Him and is prohibited. And may Allah bestow on all of us beneficial knowledge as well as acting accordingly. He is the generous, the noble. So let me just include in that us living in the West, having to go into the courtrooms of the Western court, civil courts, criminal courts, whatever the case may be. We don't stand for the judge. Based upon this, when they say all rise, Muslims don't stand for the judge. And it's not out of disrespect that we don't stand for them, but it is out of our faith that we don't observe this cultural tradition amongst them. So if it's a difficulty, perhaps you can get a letter here at NAIF Inc., North American Islamic Foundation Inc. We do write letters to the courts to explain why Muslims do not stand. So if someone needs to get a letter, they can request one from NAIF Inc., and then you could present that before you even go into the courtroom or before you go for your case, whatever the case may be. But again, we do not stand for the judge. Now we look at the dangers of having female teachers for boys in elementary school. So it is mentioned here, I have come across what the newspaper Al-Madinah printed in issue 3898, which was dated in 1397 Hijri, written by one calling herself Noura bint Abdullah under the title of Face to Face. In sum, Noura is saying that she had a meeting with a number of women, including the female dean of the College of Education in Jeddah, whose name is Faiza. Noura mentions Faiza's surprise that there are no female teachers teaching boys in the elementary level, even to the 5th grade. Noura supported Faiza's view in that article for a number of reasons. Personally, with thanks to Faiza, Noura and their colleagues for the concern about the teaching of our young boys and for their welfare. I find it an obligation upon myself to point out that their suggestion is filled with evil and harmful consequences. Having women teach boys at the elementary level means that they will have to mix with boys who are at puberty or adolescent stages. This is because some of the boys do not complete the elementary stage until they are already in adolescence, and some have already completed puberty. This is because when a boy reaches 10 years old, he is considered an adolescent. He naturally becomes inclined toward women. Someone like him can even get married and do what men do. And there is another matter. Having women teach the boys will lead to mixing between the two sexes. That will then continue until the next level. This will open the door without question to mixing between the sexes at all levels. The evil results of such mixing in the schools are well known. The devastating results that come from the type of teaching can be seen in other countries. Whoever has the smallest amount of knowledge of the Sharia evidences, and that is occurring to this ummah during this age, knows what definitely occurs to the boys and girls are due to such practices. Sheikh bin Baz went on to say, I believe that this suggestion has been inspired by Shaitan or some of his deputies upon the tongues of the above mentioned Faiza and Noura. It is without doubt something that is pleasing to our enemies and the enemies of Islam, and is from what those enemies are calling for openly and privately. The Sheikh went on to say, therefore, I see that the door to this kind of practice must be completely closed. Our boys must be left to be taught by men at all levels of instruction. Similarly, the girls must be left to be taught by female teachers at all levels of instruction. This will preserve our deen, our boys and our girls. It will be sufficient for us, for our respective female teachers, to fulfill their responsibilities to the best of their abilities with purity, sincerity, and patience in teaching our girls. And the men must also fulfill their responsibilities with purity, sincerity, and patience in teaching our boys at every level. It is also well known that a man has more patience and is stronger in teaching boys, and he can give him more teachings in every level of schooling. It is well known that the boys in the primary and higher levels of education respect and esteem their male teacher. They will be more willing to submit and accept what he says. If the women were teaching them at those different levels, they would not have the characteristics, patience, and strength with them that men have. It has been authentically narrated by from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, order your children to pray at the age of 7 and beat them lightly if they do not do so by the age of 10, and separate them in their beds. So Sheikh bin Baz wanted to explain that this hadith points out what we have been saying about the dangers of mixing boys and girls at all levels of instruction. The evidence for that from the Quran, Sunnah, and the experience of the Ummah today are many, but I do not wish to mention them all here in order to be brief. The knowledge of our government, may Allah give them understanding, as well as the Minister of Education and the President of the Directory for Girls Education, is sufficient for us to go into this matter here. I ask Allah to grant us all what is good for this Ummah, and to make us and our male and female youth good, and to give them happiness in both this life and the hereafter. Here, he is the hearer, responder, and peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad and his family and companions. And again, this is from Sheikh bin Baz. Okay, so sisters, we now enter into the section regarding purification, physical purification. So the following questions now are related to physical purification. So the first question in this section is addressed to Sheikh bin Baz, the ruling concerning stating one's intention. So the question is as follows. What is the ruling concerning stating one's intention for the prayer and ablution? So Sheikh bin Baz responded by saying, the ruling is that such is an innovation, a bid'ah. It has not been narrated from the Prophet ﷺ or from his companions. Therefore, one must avoid it. The place of the intention is in the heart. It is never needed to state an intention. So just one more time, because I still find some pockets of sisters here and there that still believe, and you find this in books, and these books, unfortunately they are plentiful still here in the West, that you find these prayer books, and they do state that you have to make intention to offer the salah or for the ablution. So be careful, sisters. Such a thing is a bid'ah. It is an innovation. There is, the Sheikh has stated here, and there is nothing to substantiate this innovative act of worship. And again, that is the intention for wudu or for the salah. So steer clear of that. And if you find a book that has that in there, then discard the book by burning it, because of course you're going to have Allah's name in there. And I say that because a lot of times where you find this, that you have to make intention, then you also find the wiping of the neck. So be careful, because wiping of the neck as a part of wudu, and let me make that a little more clearer, wiping the neck during wudu. So wiping the neck during wudu is also an apprehensible bid'ah. So, and these two usually come together in these prayer books. So be careful. If you do run across a book that has this in there, discard it by burying it or burning it. The next question, a baby vomiting on clothing. So Sheikh bin Baz was asked, is it allowed to pray in clothes that a breastfeeding baby has vomited on? And he responded by saying, one must wash the clothing by splashing water over it if the child is breastfeeding and does not eat hard food. It is similar to his urine, which is moistened with water, and then one can pray in that clothing. The clothes are not to be prayed in until they are splashed with water. So again, he is saying here, ladies, and it's pretty clear that if you happen to get vomiting on your clothing, then you should splash water upon it, and do not pray in it until you have done that splashing of water upon it. Next, we find if a woman washes her baby, is her ablution nullified? So the question is, I have children and I wash and I clean my child's impurities. Does this nullify my ablution or my wudu? So again, she's asking, does this nullify my ablution or not? So the sheikh responded, or the standing committee, the lejna, responded by saying, washing the impurities off of the body that is being washed or otherwise does not invalidate the ablution unless one touches the private part. In that case, the ablution is nullified, as is the case if a person touches his or her own private parts. So it's been mentioned that this is an issue which there is a difference of opinion, and the opinion expressed in this answer, although the safest opinion may not be the strongest opinion. So I want to look at a question that was posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen, and it says, does touching an infant's genitals nullify wudu? When asked about a woman who washes her child while she is in a state of purity, does she have to perform wudu? Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah replied, if a woman washes her child, boy or girl, and touches the child's genitals, she does not have to perform wudu. Rather, she only has to wash her hand, because touching the genitals without desire does not necessitate wudu. Again, he said that touching the genitals without desire does not necessitate wudu. It is known that when a woman washes her children, desire does not even enter her mind. So if she washes her child, she only needs to wash her hands to get rid of any najasa, and that means impurity that has gotten on them. And she does not have to perform wudu. So again, this is from the Majmu' of Fatawaa by Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, and you can look that up need be. But he has said one more time that there is no desire, no sexual desire when cleaning one's child's genitals. So there is no need to make wudu again after cleaning your child's genital organs. So let's look at now ruling about the secretion that comes from a woman's vagina. So the question reads here, and this was posed to Sheikh bin Baz. I heard from a scholar that the liquid that comes from a woman's vagina is pure and not impure. Since the time I heard that fatwa, I do not remove my underpants when I want to pray. After a lengthy period, I heard another scholar say that such liquid is impure. What is the correct opinion? So again, Sheikh bin Baz responded by saying, everything that secretes from the private parts of liquid or otherwise nullifies the ablution. The clothes and the bodily parts that are touched by it are to be washed. If this happens on a continuous basis, the ruling is the same as that of istihada and continuous seeping of urine due to the lack of bladder control. The impurity is to be washed off, and the person makes ablution for every prayer, as the Prophet ﷺ stated to the woman with continuous bleeding when he said, make ablution for the time of every prayer. However, this is not done in the case of passing gas. There is no washing in that case, although one has to make ablution due to it. This ablution is to wash the face and hands, wipe the head, wash the feet, and rinse the mouth and nose while washing the face. Similarly, with respect to sleeping, touching one's private parts, eating camel's meat, one does not wash anything, but simply has to make ablution. So this is referring to the case of prolonged or continual vaginal bleeding outside of the menses. So we want to be careful of this matter. Putting henna in the hair does not nullify the state of purity. So Sheikh bin Baz was asked, a woman makes ablution and then puts henna in her hair and then stands to pray. Is her prayer valid or not? If her ablution is nullified, does she wipe over her henna, or does she have to wash her hair and then make the minor ablution for the prayer? So Sheikh bin Baz answered by stating, putting henna in one's hair does not nullify the state of purity if she has completed her act of purity. If she makes ablution upon her hair, and upon her hair is henna or something similar that a woman needs, then it is allowed to wipe over it while making the minor ablution. So again, if she makes ablution upon her hair, and her hair, and she has the henna or something similar that a woman needs, then he said it is allowed to wipe over it while making the minor ablution. And as for the major act of ablution, the ghusl, then she must pour water over her hair 3 times. It is not sufficient for her just to wipe over the hair. This is based on what is confirmed in Sahih Muslim from Salama, who said, O Messenger of Allah, I'm a woman who has closely plaited hair on her head. Should I undo it from making ghusl from sexual defilement or menstruation? And the Prophet ﷺ told her, he said, no, it is sufficient for you to throw 3 handfuls of water on your head and then pour water over yourself, and you will be purified. And so then the Sheikh said that if you unplait your hair during your menses and then make ghusl, it will be best due to other hadith narrated about that. So one more time, let's be aware of that, because this is an issue of ikhtilaf, or a controversy regarding the rulings in this matter. Does a woman have to undo her hair after she has completed her mens? So the Sheikh stated here one more time that if you unplait your hair during your menses and then make ghusl, it will be best due to other hadith narrated about it. So we take from this that it is best for us to undo our hair, because again, the question was more specifically asked regarding sexual defilement. So we really want to be careful, sisters, that take the Sheikh's advice here, okay? And at the end of your menses, take out your hair. Take out the hair and offer your ghusl, because this is the safest position. Yawm al-Qiyamah, when we wake up on Yawm al-Qiyamah, we want to wake up on the safest side. So where there is doubt in the matter, take the safest side. And so the safe solution here, take out the hair. It's not worth it. Take out the hair and make a proper ghusl, and then go back to your hairstyle. And then, if it's sexual defilement, there's no problem with that. But when it comes once a month, you can take out your hair once a month. There's no issue taking out your hair once a month. Undoing the hair once a month. And for those sisters who are wearing dreadlocks, get rid of them. It's not worth it. Get rid of the dreadlocks. You can't take them out. You cannot take out dreadlocks. So get rid of it. It's controversial. It's ikhtilaf on the matter. So you're really endangering your salah. You're endangering your tahara and your prayer, your purity, ritual purity, and your prayer is hinged upon that. If there's no ritual purity, there is no salah. No ritual purity, no salah. The prayer is only valid if you have ritual purity, if you have tahara. So then it's not worth it. We've come into Islam now. And all those things that were valuable to us in the dunya, it's not valuable anymore. A hairstyle, dreadlocks, it's not valuable. Of what benefit would that be on Yawm al-Qiyamah for us? So get rid of them. Cut them out if you have to. Start over from scratch. It's worth it, because you're protecting your prayer. And that's the most important issue. Yawm al-Qiyamah is one of the first things we'll be asked about. What was the slave's prayer like? If the prayer is safe, then the rest of our deeds will be safe. We will be safe. But if we held back over a hairstyle, what standing will we have on Yawm al-Qiyamah? What will we have before Allah Ta'ala? Oh, my hairstyle is more important than prayer. There's ikhtilaf in the matter. So stand up on Yawm al-Qiyamah on the safe side. Don't stand up on a whim or a desire. Stand up on the safe side. A hairdo, wallahi, sisters, is not worth it. So we go on now to another question that was posed to Sheikh bin Baz, and that is concerning doubt with respect to ablution. So the Sheikh was asked, what is the ruling concerning a person who doubts whether he nullified his ablution or not? The answer was, if a person has doubt whether he nullified his ablution or not, then his original state of being pure remains, and his doubt does not have any effect. And this is based on the Prophet's statement, alayhi salam, when a man asked him about feelings he has in his stomach during the prayer. And then the statement that the Prophet alayhi salam responded with was, do not leave the prayer until you hear a sound or perceive a smell. Again, do not leave the prayer until you actually hear a sound or you actually smell something. The Prophet ﷺ made it clear to him that the basic ruling is that of purity until one is certain that something has occurred to nullify it. As long as the person is simply in doubt, his state of purity is sound and confirmed. And therefore, he may continue to pray and then make tawaf around the Kaaba, read the Quran from a mushaf, and so forth. That is the original ruling. This is all based, he said, all praises are due to Allah, from the seriousness and the easiness of Islam. So this was answered again by Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah. So next, how does a woman wipe her head during ablution? So Sheikh bin Baz was asked, what is the way in which a woman is to wipe her head during ablution? What is the ruling concerning wiping only part of the head if she is forced to do just that? So the Sheikh responded, the ruling concerning wiping their heads during ablution is exactly the same as that of men. She is to wipe all of her head until the last places where hair grows, as well as the ears. She does not wipe over the portion of her hair that falls below that, as it is confirmed in authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ used to wipe his head from the forehead back to his nape, as well as his ears. The general principle is that the rules and regulations for men and women are the same unless there is evidence to show otherwise. So again, the regulations for men and women are the same unless there is evidence to show otherwise. So now we move to a question that was posed to the Lejna. How does a woman wash herself after sexual defilement and menses? So the scholars of the Lejna, the standing committee, were asked, is there any difference in the manner that a man and a woman wash themselves after sexual defilement? Does a woman have to undo her braids, or is it sufficient for her just to pour 3 handfuls of water over her hair, as mentioned in the hadith? What is the difference between washing after sexual defilement and washing after menses? So the scholars answer, there is no difference between men and women when it comes to ghusl at the sexual defilement. Neither of them have to undo their hair for ghusl. It is sufficient to pour 3 handfuls of water over their hair and then pour water over the rest of their bodies. And this is based upon the hadith of Salama, where she mentioned, O Messenger of Allah, I'm a woman who has closely plaited hair on her head. Should I undo it from making ghusl from sexual defilement? And the Prophet ﷺ told her, no, it is sufficient for you to throw 3 handfuls of water on your head and then pour water over yourself, and you will be purified. This hadith was documented by Imam Muslim. However, it has been mentioned, if the man or the woman has a sidr, dye, or something of that nature in their hair that would keep the water from reaching to the roots of the hair, he or she must remove that. If it is something light and does not keep the water from reaching the roots, it does not have to be removed. As for the woman making ghusl after her menses, there was a difference of opinion over whether she must undo her hair or not. The correct opinion is that it is not obligatory upon her to do so. This is because it is mentioned in one of the narrations from Salama recorded by Imam Muslim. I am a woman who has closely plaited hair on her head, and should I undo it from making ghusl from menstruation and sexual defilement? The Prophet ﷺ told her, no, it is sufficient for you to throw 3 handfuls of water on your head and then pour water over yourself, and you will be purified. This narration is a clear text that is not obligatory upon the woman to undo her plaits after either menses or sexual defilement. However, the scholar said, however, it is best for her to undo her hair while making ghusl after menses as a precautionary measure, as a means of avoiding the thing in which there is a difference of opinion, as a way of reconciliation of the different evidences. And again, this was answered by the legend. So again, one more time, sisters, we're being advised to undo the hair. Undo the hair when making ghusl for menstruation. Undo the hair. We now move to a question, the ruling concerning praying in a dress and thin translucent stockings. So it was asked, what is the ruling concerning a woman dressing in a thin cloak that shows her clothing? Similarly, what is the ruling concerning wiping over thin, translucent stockings called nylon stockings? And so the answer here is from Sheikh bin Baz. So Sheikh bin Baz, he stated, it is not allowed for a woman to pray in a very thin garment or any other thin garment. The prayer in such clothing is not correct. Instead, it is obligatory upon her to pray in clothing which is covering and through which one cannot see what is behind it or the color of her skin. This is because the woman is awra, meaning she is meant to be covered. Awra meaning a private part. A private area. He wanted to say it is obligatory upon her to cover all of her body in the prayer except for her face and hands. If she covers her hands also, that is better. And as for her feet, she must either cover them with socks or that cover and conceal them, or with clothing such as a dress, for example, that rests over them. So what we find here is that it is not necessary to cover the feet with socks, sisters. That as long as your garment is over covering your feet over, then this is sufficient to cover them. So the next question posed to Sheikh bin Baz, the ruling concerning wiping over thin, translucent socks. So it was asked of Sheikh bin Baz, what is the ruling concerning wiping over thin, translucent socks? And again, this is like a nylon. The Sheikh responded, from the conditions of wiping over socks is that the socks must be thick and concealing. If they are thin and translucent, it is not allowed to wipe over them. This is because in that case, the foot is considered uncovered. So one more time, when wiping over nylons, be careful wiping over nylons, sisters. It's not sufficient. And remember, again, we're talking about tihara here. We're talking about our purification for the salah. As a reminder, the salah is not accepted if we do not have a proper tahara. So in these cases where there is doubt, leave these matters and go with the safe side. Next question here is being posed to Sheikh bin Baz. A slight tear in socks is overlooked. So the question was asked, what is the ruling if someone notices after their prayer, either a short or long time afterwards, that he had a medium-sized tear in one of his socks? Should he repeat the prayer or not? So Sheikh bin Baz responded by saying, if the tear is small or the hole is small, according to convention or custom, it is overlooked and the prayer is correct. However, it is safest for the believing men and women to be very careful about keeping their socks free from any kind of tear or hole. This is being more cautious with respect to their religion, and it also avoids the difference of opinion that exists concerning such torn socks. This approach is indicated by the Prophet's statement, alayhi salam, when he said, leave what makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. And also, when the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever avoids the doubtful matters clears himself in regard to his religion and his honor. So one more time, Whoever avoids the doubtful matters clears himself in regard to his deen and his honor. Sisters, leave what makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Next question that has been posed now to Sheikh Uthaymeen. Is the discharge that comes from a woman's vagina pure or impure? May Allah reward you. The Sheikh responded, what is well known among the scholars is that anything that comes out of the private parts is impure except for one thing, that is sperm, which is pure. Otherwise, anything of mass or weight that comes from the private parts is impure and nullifies the ablution. And based on that principle, every liquid that flows from the woman's vagina is impure and requires ablution. This is my conclusion after consulting with some scholars and doing some research. However, I have some problems with this conclusion because some women have such fluids at all times. If the flow is persistent, then the solution is to treat it in the same way that one treats the problem of uncontrollable urine flow. The person should make ablution for the prayer after the time of the prayer begins, and then she prays. Then I researched this question with some doctors, and they made it clear that if the liquid is from the urethra, then the ruling is as I have stated. However, if it is from the uterus, then it is also, he says again, then it is also as we have just stated. But in that case, the liquid is considered pure, and one does not have to wash it off or whatever it touches. So one more time, let's clarify this because this was an issue of confusion, and I heard Dr. Fatima Nassif addressed this issue when I was in class. May Allah have mercy upon her, preserve her, and grant her goodness. Ameen. And that is the confusion regarding anything coming from the vagina being considered impure. And so that as long as it is not minced blood coming from the vagina, then it should be considered pure. So the Sheikh said that in that case, the liquid is considered pure and one does not have to wash it off or whatever it touches. So now we come to the question here that was proposed to Sheikh Ibn Jibreen. May Allah have mercy upon him. We have a non-Muslim maid. Is it permissible for me to leave her to wash clothing while I pray? Can I eat what she has cooked? Is it permissible for me to point out the shortcoming and the falsehood of her religion? So Sheikh Jibreen answered, it is permissible to employ a disbeliever and use them for cooking, washing, and so forth. One may also eat the food that they prepare and wear the clothing that they have sewn or washed. This is because their outward body is clean and their impurity is a spiritual impurity. The companions used to use non-Muslim male and female slaves and eat what they had prepared for them from the lands of the non-Muslims, since they knew that their bodies were physically pure. However, it is mentioned in the hadith that one should wash their containers before cooking in them if those people used to drink alcohol or cook carrion and pork in them. Similarly, one should wash their clothing that is worn over the private parts. And as for pointing out the shortcomings and the falsity of their deen, that is permissible. Either their deen is paganism, distorted, or abrogated like Christianity. A distorted and changed deen or religion is definitely blameworthy. However, you should call them to Islam and explain to them its teachings and superiority while showing them the difference between it and the other religions. So living in the West, this is definitely an issue. We work side by side with non-Muslims. Our neighbors are non-Muslims. Our families are non-Muslims. This is an issue for us, without a doubt. Not just as having a servant, as an employee, a non-Muslim as an employee or otherwise, but this is an issue for us because our families are non-Muslim. So this is definitely an issue for us. Sometimes we even live with our non-Muslim families. So we have to understand that there's nothing impure about them physically. So we want to be careful about that. And that they're human beings like we're human beings. And we should be having good manners with everyone around us. And we should treat them as such. Again, treat people the way you want people to treat you. and then we'll be just fine. But as for tolerating the errors of their deen and compromising on the errors of their deen, this is not something that is required, because we are required to address the issues, and especially in a time like right now with shirkness and dealing with all of this nonsense, when we know that even in their Bible they have been told not to cut down the evergreen tree and deck it with silver and gold as the pagans do. This is very well known. So people are not necessarily following Christianity anymore, but they're following their desires. They're not following what Jesus, the son of Mary, brought at all, or what he confirmed at all, but they are following their desires, and much of it is paganism that existed before Jesus, the son of Mary, peace be upon him, and his mother addressed them. These were much of this was paganistic celebrations and cultural customs that he was addressing. So this is why the people wanted to get rid of him, because he addressed these issues. So be careful of compromising your deen because of paganism. Even the Christians have been commanded to stay clear of this paganism, even them themselves. So may Allah guide us all to that which is true. Ameen. Now we look at dried impurities. It states here from Sheikh Ibn Jabreen, it was asked, does dried urine not make clothing impure? That is, when a young child urinates on the ground and the urine remains there until it becomes dry without it being washed away, and then a person sits on that dried urine, does this clothing get any of that impurity? So the Sheikh answered by saying, there is no harm if a dried impurity comes into contact with a body. If a dried impurity comes in contact with a body or dry clothing. Similarly, there is no harm in entering a dry bathroom barefoot while one's feet are dry. Impurities only move from one to another when they are wet. One more time, sisters in the West, if it is dried, it's not harmful. It is not harmful. If it is wet, that's a different issue. But if the urine has already dried, as the Sheikh has stated here, it doesn't pass on to either the clothing or to the feet. Impurities only move from one to another when they are wet, is exactly what he stated. And may Allah have mercy upon the Sheikh. Ameen. So this brings us to the end of part 3, sisters, of Fatawaa al-Marwa, Islamic fatwa regarding women. I ask Allah to reward all of those who made this possible, and I want to state that if I made any mistakes in this presentation, then certainly it's from myself and Shaitan, and I ask Allah to forgive me for that. And again, if there is anything that was stated today that is unclear, please ask me to clarify it. And if it turned out to be a mistake, allow me to retract it. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Exalted are you, O Allah, and all praise is for you. I bear witness that there is no God except you. I ask your forgiveness and I turn in repentance to you. Ameen. Sisters, please join us again, inshallah, every Thursday at 8 o'clock on Islam Life Radio. We welcome you, and we look forward to any of your feedback, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.